So I just wanted to share with you this news article that I saw just now, and I felt like, this is the kind of thing I wish I could make some YouTube videos about. With my background in biology, I have a Bachelor of Science in biology and a minor in biochemistry. I've worked in research labs at the university when I was in college. I did PCR tests, ran those, and analyzed DNA and helped in mapping genome projects. We studied, you know, uh, vaccines in depth as well as bacteria and how they're grown and how vaccines work. I was fully indoctrinated into all of the vaccine theory and believed in vaccines and always got vaccines, had all of my vaccines as a child. Uh, but because I had some adverse reactions and loved ones did as well, which I won't go into right now, maybe another time, I am what you would call not an anti-vaxxer because I was pro-vaccine for most of my life. But I am an ex-vaxxer. So I avoid vaccines because of adverse reactions. So it caught my attention about this new vaccine for the the big pandemic. Um, and I just want to share with you just some of my thoughts after looking at it. So I'm going to flip the screen here and show you here my PC. Got to unplug my phone here. And I'm just going to go over a couple of things. This is I found it on Microsoft News, but it's from USA Today. And it says, very inconsistent. 2 allergic reactions in the UK to COVID-19 vaccine puzzle researchers. And I find it interesting. I joke with this about my husband, how scientists are so often puzzled and confused about things that's usually in the headline itself that catches your attention. Scientists are confused. Scientists are baffled. And so that begs the question, like, how much credence should we give to these scientists how often do these scientific researchers say, cholesterol is bad for you, eggs are bad for you, fat is bad for you, avoid all fat. And then, the next year things change and all of a sudden everything's good for you. Vitamin D is bad for you, then it's good for you, then it's bad for you. And so it's constantly changing. Nevertheless, so this is 12/9/2020. Was posted 1 hour ago. It says 2 British people with severe allergies had allergic reactions to the Pfizer BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine. Now you can click on that and see more about it. And it raises questions about whether it's safe for people with pre-existing allergies. Is it safe I have pre-existing allergies. In response, regulators advise those with severe allergies. Now, severe is, that's leaves a lot to be interpreted. Like, what does severe mean? How do they decide what severe is? Who decides what severe is? Like with the masks, they put exemptions in for the mask mandate, and if you have a pre-existing medical condition, turning it around here, got my hand in the way, then you should be able to get exemptions. But what is a pre-existing qualifying medical condition? And that's going to be left up to whoever is supposed to decide it, because it's not decided exactly by the ADA. It just depends on case by case, and so who's going to decide what constitutes a severe allergy? Like, I have allergies to certain drugs. Is that going to you know, qualify as, a reason to exempt me from the vaccine should it ever become mandated. And, we're not that far from a mandated vaccine if they can mandate medical treatments like mask wearing to prevent an illness with very little evidence that it actually works. Really, we all know that. It's mostly a mass placebo. Then how are we going to, know about, the vaccines and their safety and be able to use a severe allergy to exempt ourselves? I have hay fever. Is that going to count? Or are they going to say, not so much. It's, the risks are greater than your allergies. So we need to go ahead and give you that vaccine because your allergic reactions and discomfort, like with the mask, if you can't breathe, that's just a minor thing. And if you refuse to use the mask, if you refuse to take the vaccine, then, you're selfish. You don't care about others. So basically, our well-being is not as important as their agenda. So going back to the article, I want to point you to something that's coming up that was very alarming to me that I didn't know. So it says it's not immediately clear what triggered the allergic reactions. There are no preservatives or animal products in the Pfizer vaccine, which have been known to trigger reactions with other types of vaccines. Well, I wonder what's in there. They don't say what all is in there, do they? So it's a guess. You're injecting something that's intended to cause an immune response, and then you have an immediate response, and they're puzzled. It's really surprising to me that these are scientists and researchers that they can't figure this out, that some people will have an immediate immune system reaction because their immune system is already on edge from all of the toxins and medications that they're already exposing themselves to every day. Now it says allergic reactions were not a significant problem in the U.S. trial. Isn't that interesting? Like no allergic reactions or not a significant problem. What does significant mean? It means that it doesn't mean that there was no problem. It means, as far as we're concerned, we decided that it's not that big of a deal. There were more than 20,000 people who received both doses of the vaccine. But the U.S. trials probably, this is the part right here that caught my attention. The U.S. trials probably kept out subjects who have had severe allergic reactions. In other words, when they decided to do trials, they said, let's make sure not to put anyone in there who has had severe allergic reactions ever. No history of severe allergic reactions. Now, how many of you know someone or you yourself have had a severe allergic reaction to something at some point in your life? And how would you feel if you knew that these tests were keeping people like you out? That would skew all the results in favor of the safety of the vaccine, saying the vaccine is really safe because they didn't put anyone in there that would possibly have a bad reaction to it. What other conditions are they keeping out of the trials that lots of people have going on? Like, what about diabetes? What about heart disease? What about if you're on medications? What if you're, if you have a genetic condition, that would predispose you to reactions to vaccinations, and what was in them. So this is the most disturbing part, is that now we know that vaccinations, when they're tried, they go through trials in the United States, they are deliberately skewing their research so that they have positive, glowing results. And then what happens if someone has a bad reaction? Well, we'll see soon. We're going to read through this real quick. Slaoui said he assumes that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration committee meeting Thursday will discuss this issue. He assumes that. He doesn't know for sure whether they will or they won't. And then they'll suggest that people with severe allergies, they're going to just suggest it, that people with severe allergies should not take the vaccine until we know exactly what happened. But a vaccine that triggers dangerous reactions in people with severe allergies poses a major challenge in the U.S., said Dr. Peter Hotez, a pediatrician and dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. If you start issuing recommendations to anyone with an EpiPen that anyone with an EpiPen doesn't get vaccinated, that could be a showstopper for Americans, he said. Oh my goodness, a showstopper. I love that. I love that term. Like, this is a great big show. The whole thing, and we're gonna stop the show, which is like a good. It's a good thing. Shows are a good thing, right? And so it's, what is this really about? So about 3 to 4 million Americans carry EpiPens with them at all times in case of allergic reactions, Hotez noted, and 50 million have less severe allergies. 50 million, so that's 3 to 4 million, 54 million people have less severe allergies, but still there are even those who have mild allergies. That's most of us here, people. That's most of us in America have allergies. And they're saying that they're concerned that taking this vaccine could potentially have a very severe reaction. But look at what some of the reactions have been that they don't even talk about in the news. And they say it's they're confused. They're confused by the allergic reaction. It wasn't predicted by trials in tens of thousands of people. Predicted, not predicted. It's very inconsistent. That's what's really puzzling me. Well, why do we want people who are really puzzled by just, normal reactions, which is an immune response, to a vaccine? And that's their job. I mean, you've got one job and you don't even understand what's going on? Wow. In the U.S., there were more allergic reactions in the group that received the vaccine than among placebo recipients. I thought that they said that, they said right up here previously that allergic reactions were not a significant problem in the U.S. trials. So here we have confirmation that they were a problem. Okay? There were more allergic reactions, in fact, in the group that got the vaccine than among the placebo. Isn't that important to note? Why aren't they reporting on this? But both represented a fraction of 1% of trial participants. Wow, that's okay. It's a fraction of 1%. It happens to be the same with COVID, that a fraction of 1% of people who test positive for COVID will die from it. So, and yet we still have to wear masks. They make us wear masks, but now this isn't that big of a deal for them when it comes to their vaccine, is it? Pfizer and Moderna did not immediately respond to requests about whether people with severe allergies were included in their trials. Why didn't they respond immediately? Is there some reason why they wanted to keep that kind of under wraps? Why are they asking us this question? British regulators authorized use of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine last month, and the US FDA appears poised to do the same as soon as the end of this week. Thousands of people in the UK have received the vaccine since it was first distributed on Tuesday. Thousands of people. Dr. Gregory Poland, who runs the vaccine research group at Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, said he thinks the British regulators overreacted. I just think they overreacted. It's not that big of a deal. We can't say that about wearing masks, though, can we? We can't say, people are just overreacting to this coronavirus nonsense. It's all hyped up, so I'm not going to wear my mask. So why should he get to say, I think that the people over there, the vaccine research group or the British regulators are overreacting, and then blow it off? People who have had anaphylactic shock reactions, that anaphylactic shock is a very serious, it can cause death, a reaction that makes basically your throat swell up so you can't breathe. Those reactions to previous vaccines should avoid this one, he said, but those with reactions to something other than a vaccine should still be allowed to receive the COVID-19 shot for now, said Poland, who studied the immunogenetics of vaccine response in adults and children. He said he hopes that the FDA committee that is meeting tomorrow to consider the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine will require the companies to actively study the issue, even after the vaccine is authorized, contacting people who received it, for instance, to ask if they had reactions. Now, what's interesting about this, too, is that the FDA, historically, once they approve a drug, they don't follow, after the approval process is over and complete, they don't follow any bad reactions to the drug afterwards. And they aren't documented unless they're voluntarily reported by doctors or researchers, and then they may not go down the record under the history of the drug. So once they approve, and they already have approved this vaccine for use, then they're under no legal obligation to continue to study and contact recipients. This is a suggestion. He is considering whether they'll do that. He's considering it, but they haven't decided. He said he hopes the committee will also require the company to keep track of any future neurological side effects from the vaccine. Why would there be neurological side effects expected from the vaccine? He specifically states this. Neurological means involving your brain, involving your nerves, involving your spine, involving the electrical messaging system of your body. So you want to put that in your body before they really know what's going on and they're confused about reactions. This is a completely new vaccine with the mRNA. If this is the one with the mRNA, they don't have, it's very new. So it's amazing that they're able to just ram it through. 4 people in the trials who received the active vaccine developed Bell's palsy. Do you know what that is? My mom got Bell's palsy. And basically half of your face goes numb. It looks like you've had a stroke. And it takes months, if not years, to recover from that. My mom has had it. She got it probably 4 or 5 years ago, and she still has trouble talking and smiling fully. And so it's a serious thing. It's not a minor thing. It says temporary, but it can last for years. So it's not that temporary. Stiffness in facial muscles. It's worth following. Yeah, it is worth following. This is the other thing. But Poland said it could also have happened. The Bell's palsy could have happened purely by chance. They do this all the time. This is their MO. They give you a vaccine, and if you have a bad reaction or someone dies, your child dies, or you end up catching the very illness for which you were vaccinated against, then their response is that it's purely by chance. Or they blow it off and say, oh no, you probably already had it and were exposed to it before you got. They have all the bag of excuses, what they're full of. But we can't do that when we want to not wear a mask or just want to gather with our families. We want to go out to the restaurant and have a meal without being assaulted and accosted by mask Nazis. All right. He says there are immediate treatments for allergic. Oh, go back here. He says early Wednesday. Dr. Paul Offit told CNN, here we go up here, early Wednesday that severe allergic reactions to vaccines occur in about 1 of every 1.4 million shots. And that's why, now when you're that one person, now these are the ones that are severe and reported. So many are not reported and many are not what they consider severe, but they're still reactions. So you still can have a reaction, and it won't be recorded in the statistic 1 out of every 1.4 million shots. So it's probably even higher than that. I'm sure it is. That's why people are asked to stay in a doctor's office for a few minutes after a vaccination, said Offit, an infectious disease specialist and director of the Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Rather than a blanket recommendation for people with allergies, the smarter thing to do would be to try to look at these 2 patients and see what specific component of the vaccine they were allergic to, he said. And there are immediate treatments for allergic reactions, he noted. So basically, if you get an allergic reaction, they're going to keep you in the office and they're going to be ready to treat you. But they're not going to be that concerned about it. It's just going to be considered normal. Is that normal? And then I love this next part. This is a link to another article. Will a COVID-19 vaccine be required? Many of us want to know that because, it's, if you look at these mask Nazi requiring blue Democrat governors with all their mandates, they also, you can read between the lines on their latest release of updated mandates that they are praising Operation Warp Speed, which is Trump's vaccine campaign. And it's amazing how they agree with Trump when it comes to vaccines, but everything else, not so much. So it says for some Americans, the answer is yes, they will be required, but not by the federal government. Not by the federal government. So, in other words, for some Americans, it could be your governor, the answer is yes, they should be required, but it's not by the federal government, it'll be required by the state government. The 2 Britons, the British people, is an interesting choice of words to call them Britons, both of whom work for the NHS, have not been identified. Oh, so they're keeping them anonymous. But they're recovering well. Oh, what does that mean, well? Who decides? What happened to them? Why won't they tell us? According to Stephen Powis, the National Medical Director, blah, 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 servicing. As is common with new vaccines, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency have advised on a precautionary basis that people with a significant, another word is kind of just gray area, history of allergic reactions do not receive this vaccination after 2 people with a history of significant allergic reactions responded adversely yesterday, Powell said in an emailed statement. Until yesterday, people who were allergic to ingredients in the vaccine were told to avoid the vaccine. But now the guidance from the UK's regulatory agency, MHRA, advises that anyone who has had a severe reaction to anything in the past should avoid the vaccine for now. Are they going to tell us that when they require us to take the vaccine? And how are we going to be able to opt out when we can't even opt out of masks? Something as simple as masks, they're going to call this the miracle cure. And do you really think they're going to allow us to opt out based on a claim? They won't admit our claim now that we can't breathe when we wear the masks and that we have a medical condition. They will not honor it. You try going into Menards with a medical condition to the mask. If you're not under age 2, then you have to wear the mask in order to get into the store. And none of that was going on before the governor made his mandates. And so you can't tell me that it's all the store's policy. No, those policies would not be there if it were not for the governor's emergency mandates. That's it, bottom line. Quit trying to weasel out of taking the blame for who came up with the requirement. So in pausing here, in continuing here, it says, we're fully investigating the 2 reports that have been reported to us as a matter of priority. Once all the information has been reviewed, we will communicate updated advice. Do you really trust? Hold on. Okay, a little interruption there. Okay, so do we trust? Do we trust them to give us the full picture, the full information, to disclose to us? And what other? I mean, this is just for allergic reactions. What if people have some other condition, even a genetic condition that would predispose them to an adverse reaction that hasn't even been studied yet? Or what if we just are, don't want to take it? What if we just don't want to take it, whether we've had an adverse reaction or not? What if we just are morally opposed to putting some foreign, questionable substance into our bodies that is highly controversial? Are we going to be forced by our governors, our governments at the state level, and then the federal government and president can have plausible deniability to say we didn't require it? It's like the black hand of death. It's like, oh, we didn't, we're going to give you the vaccines and put them out there and distribute them all over the world. But if you don't take it, it's on the governor. It's the governor's fault if you are being forced to take it against your will. So blame him. And then the governor will say, oh, no, it's not on me. It's because of this illness, this pandemic that will never end. This just is about as bad. The risk factor is just about as bad as the vaccine itself. But now you're going to put the vaccine in, and you're twice as you have a 2% chance of dying, one from COVID and one from the vaccine. So in line with existing advice, we advise anyone with a history of significant allergic reaction due to receive the Pfizer COVID vaccine to speak to your healthcare professional who's administering the vaccine. Oh, do you think that healthcare professional is going to want to be on record as saying, I've got another one who can't take the vaccine. I've got another one who can't take the vaccine. Don't you think they're going to be watched by the governor and the government, and they're going to be counting how many people are turned down? Because this is a money-making venture, this vaccine and these masks and this whole response. They make money off of all this. And who are the ones who have any say in making health decisions for themselves? We the people. We are getting consistently pushed into this box where we're being forced to accept their dictates about how we take care of our health, the decisions we make, whether or not we want to wear or use certain medical restrictions, whether there's an emergency in place or not. I mean, for goodness sake, even here in Louisville, I read the other day that the mayor has decided that racism is an emergency pandemic, and we've got to invoke emergency orders to stop racism, in endemic, systemic racism in the community. So now we've got emergency orders being invoked for racism. I mean, how absurd is it going to get? before we completely lose our identities as Americans under a constitution in a republic. I mean, it's very quickly turning into Bolshevik Russia, Red China, the Middle East, whatever country where people are just, socialism is completely, it has taken over the entire nation. So with that, I just wanted, I know it's a long video, but I just want to go over those points, and hopefully someone would care enough to watch and make a careful decision before subjecting their children to this vaccine without examining it further and really considering and talking to other people about it in the community. I talked to someone the other day who had no idea. So share these things with them if they're open to learning. All right. God bless and take care. Thanks for watching. Bye.